I first started playing chess about 14 years ago, and in the beginning I did what everybody else was doing. I was trying to memorize opening theory, and I was playing a lot of games online. But I actually got stuck at around 1300, 1400 rating, and I was stuck there for quite a while until I switched my approach. So I want to teach you the most important things that I have learned so that you don't have to be stuck at the same rating. I will demonstrate this by playing a game here against a 2200 rated chessbot. One of my biggest regrets is that I used to try to memorize so much opening theory in the beginning. Right now I just completely don't memorize any theory at all, and I basically always play this. The Pegasus system, my own opening system. The reason why I play this is not because this is the best opening in the world, but because this is an opening you can play against anything that black tries and you always get a good position. And the main takeaway for the opening is that I really regret memorizing variations because I think the more you try to memorize, you are using that as a help to just quickly get a little bit better. But in the long run, you will be hurting your chess because you won't really understand your positions. And when your opponent plays something you didn't prepare for, you are already in trouble. So yeah, here I am just going to play normal moves. I am just going to develop. I am developing my pieces. And I have a couple of plans here. One of my plans is to play pawn to c4, but I have to say that this is a very strange move they played. Usually I play pawn to c4, but I have to think a little bit. Their bishop is here, but it's not really doing anything. So yeah, I think we can play pawn to c4. Right now we have to make a choice. How are we going to recapture? Because we have to recapture this. Usually if your bishop has not moved yet, it is best to just take this with the bishop. We might get this exchange, but that is fine, because that was one of the plans from the beginning in this opening. To put your knight here and then there. And I have to say that this specific position, I have actually never had this, although I have been playing this opening for a long time. But because I focused on really understanding my opening, instead of trying to memorize it, I know how to play these types of positions. So that would be my biggest advice. Try to really understand chess and not just memorize moves. What does this move mean? Well, this move means that they want to develop the bishop, maybe with a check, and they also want to castle. I am just going to castle because basically, yeah, that eliminates their check and they can do whatever. And now we are into the middle game, basically. And I will teach you some very important things that you can use in the middle game. And I want to teach you this in a way so that you can use it with every single opening that you play. You don't have to play this. You can play whatever you want, but I will show you some interesting strategies you can use. So if I look at this position, what I have learned over time is that you have to really try to evaluate the position and come up with a plan and not just play brain dead chess and make a move just because it looks nice. So what I can see from this position is we have two knights aiming at the e5 square. So that is something that's going on, and black only has one knight defending it. We have also already castled our king, and our opponent's king is still in the center of the board. So sometimes that means you can quickly start an attack and gain some winning advantage, but here that's not really going to be the case since we don't have a light squared bishop, and this king should be attacked on some type of light squared diagonal or maybe a knight sacrifice or something. But yeah, that's not really going to happen here. So I don't have to attack the king. I already have a little bit more control over the center of the board. Okay, so those are the first things I'm thinking about. Now I have to try to find a good move. And what I try to do in general is to focus on optimizing my pieces and also keeping a very clean pawn structure and not moving too many pawns. So I am thinking, is there a way I can basically get this bishop into the game, because I haven't used it yet. I can play it here, I can play it here to d2, or I could also, for example, push b3, and then I can develop it here to the b2 square as well. Which of those options is better? Well, I'm thinking which will benefit me the most in the long run. My opponent is probably going to castle here, so it does look nice to just have a bishop there, because in the future I can push this pawn and open up the position. So that is why I will play b3. I was going to say probably they will castle, and then I can just develop my bishop like this. Every time your opponent makes a move, of course, you have to pause for a moment and think like, what is this doing? A bit of a strange move. They put the knight into the position. They are attacking some squares, but they are not really doing anything. But it is annoying if we keep this knight here for too long. And what I will do is I will keep my thinking system of improving pieces. So I want to improve a piece, for example, the queen, and I can improve it while also attacking the knight. So I was going to say they have to do something. They can either do this, or I think a lot of beginner players would also play this, but that would of course be weakening one of the diagonals towards the king as well. Okay, but they put the queen in the center of the board. That is okay. I still have some pieces that are not in the game. So this is what I think about now. I don't try to memorize, I just try to play logical chess. I still have pieces to get into the game. I want to get my rooks here. This is an open file, or at least a semi-open file, because I don't have a pawn here anymore. So I can just place my rook here, and then I will have an open file in the future. Black is trying to play for simple attacks, attacking my queen, but it's not going to work. They are also attacking this pawn, but I can always slide back and protect it. And this might seem like a bit of a strange square for the queen, but all I am trying is to both activate my pieces, but also make sure that they keep an eye on the enemy king side. Because at some point, if my opponent makes a mistake, or if I see an opportunity, I will be able to jump in, attack, and destroy their queen side, their king side here. Yeah, I don't think a lot of things are going on. I can always just play a3, I think, kick away the knight. That seems like a move. Maybe also get this rook into the game. I think honestly everything is fine. I will just attack this knight. They will probably have to move. And then the knight doesn't really do anything. This is protected. So I can just develop another piece. So I have never had this position before. I'm just playing this, trying to play logical chess. That is a bit of a strange move, but maybe they are thinking about in the future attacking my knight. Okay, so we have now improved most of our pieces, right? We have done a lot of development. The question then is, what are we going to do next? Usually I try to see, is there a way that I can keep improving my pieces? Because it's not because you once developed your knight to the f3 square that this is now an amazing knight. You still have to try to figure out a way to get it active into the game. You can also see that we have the two pieces here lined up attacking the enemy king, plus we have two rooks lined up here. And usually you will be able to find a middle game plan by basically drawing lines like this, or thinking if you are playing over the board, because you cannot draw any arrows. So this basically tells me where I have to look, right? I have to see if I can either do something in the center, for example push, my rooks are helping with that, or open up, so the diagonals open up for my queen and my bishop. So those are some things I am thinking about. So one idea would be to start pushing pawns, which I don't really think is possible immediately, but I could always move back my knight. I'm going to play the most random of moves, and then maybe think about something like this. For example, this push, then maybe in the future this push, but I always have to be a little bit careful as well, because I am opening some lines towards my king. But I think this should all in all still be a decent plan. One other thing, of course, is that we have two knights that are also aiming at this square. So that's just a simple development move I can do. I don't have to go back. I can also just go forward and improve my knight like this. Okay, black is playing ultra aggressive chess, but I think we already have some opportunity here, because black is somewhat breaking my rules. My rule is to just focus on your pieces and not move your pawns too much, and black is moving the pawns a lot. You can see that we now have basically, this is a bit difficult to see maybe, but this is an X-ray attack. We have two pieces basically attacking this knight, and it's only defended once. So that tells me that I should start calculating. Of course, I can just move this knight as well, but what I'm thinking is maybe I can take, and most likely they will recapture, or they will have to capture this, but then they are in a lot of trouble because that is a check and they would also be losing the queen. So pretty much they have to recapture this, and then I can move this knight with a discovery on the queen. Usually when I see something like this, I won't even calculate much further, because I can just take this and I see that there should be something here, right? For example, this knight can just go back to that square, and now my rook has opened up. So this position, although nothing extreme happened, it is already slightly better for us than the previous one. Okay, I also see that I have this. I can put my knight into their position and further improve my knight. So that is what I am going to do. And just by playing these couple of moves, we have basically transitioned from a quite a passive position to now having a more open rook, and also having this knight basically all the way into their position. I am thinking, it looks like by playing this variation, we now have this one pawn that is unprotected. So I am just going to quickly protect it. I don't want anything bad to happen. I don't want to lose a pawn. That is a bit of a strange move. Maybe they didn't want me to capture. You might have also been thinking, like, why did you not capture that bishop instead of playing over your queen? Well, if I look at this position, which piece is better, the knight or the bishop? In my opinion, the knight, because the knight is attacking all of these squares into the enemy position. It's also preventing this pawn from pushing, so that we can attack it, maybe double up the pieces, and then move the knight in the future and try to win this pawn. And this bishop is really not doing anything, Plus, I have so many pawns on the dark squares that this bishop has very limited mobility. Even if they move it, it's basically, yeah, it's basically not doing anything. And now I have the position that I was talking about. I mean, I have queen and rook lined up, meaning if I move the knight, I also have an attack here. So if I just move the knight back, for example here to b4, I attack the queen, and I also have this double attack. But of course, every time your opponent makes a move, you have to slow down and you have to think, what were they doing previously? What are they doing now? Well, now they are attacking this. And if I think, yeah, let's go, we grab the free pawn, all of a sudden, not this, but this would be very, very devastating. I can still move the king, but I'm also losing my bishop, and this doesn't really look like the type of position I want to play. Okay, so we have to solve this. We still have the pressure here, so that is fine. How can I fix this? How can I fix this? I can't push, because if I push, they take, and I also lose my rook. So I can't push. Okay. Maybe I can move back my rook. Or maybe I can just not grab the free pawn and just continue to improve my position. So I have a couple of ideas. Maybe I could move back the rook, which is possible. I think it is a little bit passive, but it's probably a playable plan because we still have this attack. I think that's what I'm going to do. Honestly, my rook was not really doing too much here. There might have been something sharper, but usually when I find a simple plan, I will go for it. My knight is under attack. I could go back here. But you can see I already have some pressure. I'm actually going to go back to d3 because then my knight can support a little bit on my king side where it might be needed in the future if black really tries to attack us. Okay, so I think we are honestly doing fine. We have this lined up. I don't think black has anything. Like they have 3 pieces here, but basically they don't have anything because of my rook. One thing that I don't like about this position is also the fact that this bishop has basically not done anything the entire game, and that will be the case as long as this pawn remains here on d4. So I have to try and see is there a way I can potentially remove this pawn, because then my bishop will open up. One interesting plan I think is to play knight to c5. We have the double attack, so this already looks interesting. If they take this, we can actually take the queen on f5, and then at the end of the variation we win the knight, and that is also a very weak pawn. So I think this looks like a very simple plan. I don't really see any counter threat for my opponent. Okay, of course they don't have to take it, but then we also get this type of position. So I just have to quickly think, can I grab this queen? They can grab it like this. I don't think that's a bad trade. It's an exchange of queens, and you might think, well, we are not up any material yet, and we are at move 25. Yeah, sure, but we are also playing a very strong chessboard, so it's normal. But I think this position is already better for white, simply because of the pawn structure. If you look at this, it's always going to be worse for black in the long run. So we might have to turn this into some kind of endgame grind. We'll see. But I already see the pawn structure as weak. Plus, this is still a backwards pawn. So I am going to see if I can double up my rooks on the open file. I think I just can. And then I can attack this. And maybe I will be able to try to win this in the future. Black is starting some type of exchange here. I think we are fine by grabbing because the knight is also backwards protecting. So basically they have to take this with the pawn. Otherwise they are in a lot of trouble. Okay. And I think if we now move the knight, we basically get the 2 rooks lined up here with the pawn. Okay, so that is fine. Black is defending. I think they are actually playing a very strong game. They are also attacking this pawn twice. And I have been doing a lot of maneuvering with this knight, but I think it's time for another knight maneuver. We can play the knight here and basically prevent their bishop from doing anything. Okay. They push the pawn, which I think is not the best move, because now it's on a light square and it's no longer protected by the knight. So we might be able to do something. But still, this is not an easy position. This type of position that we have now, which is of course very high level, if you were playing somebody lower rated, you probably already would have won some material using this strategy. What we want to do here is we want to realize that we are actually in an endgame. This is an endgame. There are no queens and the kings are actually pretty safe. And in an endgame, it is very important to activate your king and to see if you can get your king to the center. So that is what I am trying. I am thinking, can I move my king here and maybe set up a little bit of a trap? This is almost, I think this is almost identical to the very famous Bobby Fischer game, where Bobby Fischer actually took the pawn against Boris Spassky and then lost his bishop. So I'm going to see if my opponent falls for this. They actually do. We are able to play the Bobby Fischer trap. Yeah, this works, and now we are basically up a bishop. We just have to make sure that we keep it trapped. So I think I can even grab it like this, because this pawn is still trapping it, and then I will try to just go get it with my king, or even with my rook, honestly. So yeah, we were able to do the Bobby Fischer trap, or at least the Boris Spassky trap, I should say, that Bobby Fischer fell for. Very sneaky by my opponent. If I attack the bishop, they get out alive. They can take this, and the pawn is pinned, so that is very intelligent. But I can also do just like Boris Spassky did in the game, and we are just going to activate our king. We are going to go in with the king and see if we can grab this. My opponent playing very aggressive chess, but I think we can just go here. They might win the pawn, but at the end of the day, we are still winning the bishop as well. So it's fine. Will they take this? Yeah, it's fine. We grab the bishop. And now we are up extra material. A bunch of exchanges are happening here. It is fine. I don't really mind. And now in this position, we are up a piece, but we are also down a couple of pawns. So we have to be a little bit careful. We have to now evaluate this endgame and see what we can do. So I can already give a check, but I think it doesn't matter that much because they can just move. I think the most important thing here will be to try to destroy this pawn, because if we can destroy this, then we suddenly have a pawn that can become a queen in just 4 moves. So I am going to play this move. I think everything is fine. Yeah, everything is protected. That's crazy. That's a crazy move, but I have to say, honestly, black is losing anyways, because yeah, if they try to, I'm gonna show you with this editing mode. If they try to do this, of course they are also losing. By the way, this square is also protected, so probably I think there might even be a checkmate. Yeah, the bot is just giving it away at this point, but I think in any case, black is in a lot of trouble, because I honestly don't even think we have to take this. I think we can just slide over a rook. I'll see if I can find something. I think if we give this check, they have to move to the corner, and it looks to me like there should be something, right? Because we have everything teamed up. I didn't see this before when I moved the knight, but I'm realizing now that this is just a checkmate. I think this is just a checkmate. We give this check. Yeah, we give this check. That's interesting, because I played the knight here basically wanting to double up on the pawn, and I never realized that we had such a strong checkmate back there. But this is just it, and basically that is the final move, and I think now we just have a very simple checkmate. I hope you were able to learn from this video that it is more important to understand chess and to play a solid middle game than it is to memorize theory.